This is a presentation of the OPC Web Controls.net product. These are ASP.NET components used to develop HMI web applications. OPC Web Controls.net implements AJAX, which stands for Asynchronous JavaScript and XML. This allows you to update real-time data to a web application without having to refresh the page. All of the components are 100% managed and are implemented, just like a standard button, checkbox, label, all of these controls listed and more. You can update properties like text, back color, border color, size, location, all dynamically without writing any code. You can even write data without writing any code. You can use any graphic file format that Visual Studio supports. And if you need programmatic data in your web application, there's a different product, which is OPC Controls.net. This includes a data component that you can programmatically read and write data from your web application. Each licensed OPC system service supports unlimited numbers of web applications running locally and remotely. And each web application that you build can connect to unlimited numbers of licensed services. This allows you to build a very scalable solution. To develop web applications, we'll use Microsoft Visual Studio or the free-to-use Web Designer Express, which you can download from Microsoft.com/Express. Select the download page, and there you will see Visual Web Developer 2008 Express Edition. That is the free-to-use version that you can use with OPC Web Controls.net. Once you have installed OPC Systems.net, an example web application will be installed in your installation directory. If we go to the directory under Program Files, Open Automation Software, OPC Systems.net, there you will find the OPC Web Controls example directory. This contains the source code of the example ASP.NET web application. You can also see a live example of this web application if you visit the website opcsystems.com. Scroll down on the main page and select the individual product OPC Web Controls. There you will see a link to launch a live interactive demonstration. You can then select any of the links from the menu page and see examples of each of the OPC Web Controls components in use. For example, under the button page, you will see an example of the OPC Web Controls button. You can see how you can change the back color, fore color, border color, set whether it's enabled or disabled, all based upon real-time updates. You'll see that there's live updates to these controls without writing any code behind these forms. The one exception is under the message box form. Here we can write to values with the message box confirmation. If we select Change Value, type in a new value, click OK, you'll see the feedback demonstrated in the label control. Behind this form, you'll see easy-to-use one-line code to be able to update and change values. There are other product features demonstrated in this web example. There's the OPC Web Trend.net product. This will be demonstrated in a different training video. And there's also Web Alarm.net. That is also demonstrated in a different training video for OPC Web Alarm. Now let's start our Visual Studio development. We'll launch Microsoft Visual Studio 2005 or 2008, or also that free-to-use Web Express developer. Select File, New, Website, and here we want to select an ASP.NET website. You may see the source or the design view of the web form. Let's select the design view so we can see how to drop the controls onto the form without writing any code. You will want to have access to your toolbox. If you don't see it, select View, Toolbox. If you have not added the OPC Web Controls product to the toolbox, You can do this now by right-clicking on the toolbox and selecting Choose Items. There you will see a list of .NET components. You will want to scroll down to where you see OPC Web Controls. You may also want to select OPC Web Alarm and OPC Web Trend. Simply check the box to include these components into your toolbox, and then select OK. For each page that you want to implement the OPC Web Controls in, you want to drop one OPC Web Refresh control onto the form. Select that control and just drag it onto the web form. It will appear in the upper left. This will determine the update rate for this individual page. Each web page that you want to include the OPC Web Controls on must have just one OPC Web Refresh control on the form. Select the Web Refresh and right-click to select Properties. It is the refresh rate property that you will want to adjust to speed up or slow down the update rate on this page. Let's change the refresh rate to 1000 milliseconds. The minimum rate that you can set is 100 milliseconds. Next, let's drop an OPC Web label control onto the form. Right-click on the label and select Properties. The text property displays what text is shown on that label. To automatically update the text based upon an OPC Systems.NET tag or OPC item, select the property text OPC Systems_tag. A browse button will appear to the right, and select that. You can now browse a local OPC system service or remote OPC system service. Your web application can reside on different PCs, and you can even connect to remote data across the internet. We are going to select the local service. And let's select the tag ramp2 and the parameter value. Select OK. Now the value of ramp2 will be displayed in the text of this label. Let's talk about layout and positioning of your web page. If you select Layout from the main menu under Visual Studio, there are two basic types that you can do. Position, Auto Position Options. Under the HTML Designer, you have the Cascade Style Sheet Positioning, and you can choose to Absolute Position or Relative Position. I prefer Absolute Position, which means the controls will stick where you place them on the form. So let's take that OPC Web Controls label and drag it into this area. We can then save the changes to that web form. And to see what that label looks like in runtime, right-click on the web form and select View in Browser. There we see as the value is changing, we see the real-time update in the web application. Let's go back to the OPC Web Controls label and take a look at some of the other properties that we can set dynamically based upon OPC Systems.NET tags. Select the control and right-click to select Properties or hit F4. With the label, we can change the back color, fore color, border color. With the back color property, we can actually define up to 4 individual tags, with the first tag having the highest priority. If the value for the first tag definition is true, then it will set the back color to the first back color OPC Systems true. If this tag is false, and then a second tag is defined, then it will use the second tag's assignments, and so on, till it finds at least one tag that is true. You can also change the height and location of the label. You can even enable a tooltip to be displayed. Let's see how to implement an OPC Web Controls button. Drag the button onto the form. Position it on the form where you would like, and go ahead and change the size of it. Right-click on the button and select Properties. Let's go to the Text OPC Systems_tag property of the button and browse for a local tag, which is pump.value. Select OK. We'll use this same tag and parameter in some of the other properties as well. Right above that we have set value OPC systems tag. Let's put pump.value in this property as well, so that when the user clicks on the button, we will toggle the state of the pump. The different data types for a button can be a float, integer, the default is a logical discrete Boolean, or we can even have a text string. When it's set to a logical discrete, under the set value OPC systems discrete value, you can select to turn the pump off, turn the pump on, or toggle, which is the default. Let's also go up to the back color and enter in the back color OPC systems underscore tag property pump.value. Back under the text property, the default is to display the text false or true when the value is false or true. Let's change that to the pump is off and the pump is on. Now let's go into runtime by right-clicking on the form, select View in Browser, and save the changes to your form. Here we see that the pump is on. If we click on the button, it'll turn the pump off, and we'll see the back color of the button change to red. Let's now see how to implement an OPC Web Controls text box. Select the OPC Web Controls text box, drag it onto the form. Position it where you would like the entry field. An OPC Web Controls text box is used for both operator entry and display. Right-click on your new text box and select Properties. Under the text property, let's define the text OPC systems tag, which is the signal that we're going to write to when we hit the enter key and automatically update the text based upon its current value. Use the Browse button to the right. Select the local service. Notice we can connect directly to OPC servers with the direct OPC interface. If you have not yet viewed the data sources training video, I would suggest to do this. There you can see how to connect to OPC servers, OPC clients, OPC systems.net tags, databases, and Visual Studio applications with the OPC Controls data component. Let's explore how to connect directly to an OPC server. This is most applicable to OPC servers like CyberLogic, Kepware, Top Server, where you want to connect directly to those OPC items without having to go through the real-time OPC systems.net tags. Let's connect to the EEI.OPC simulator. Under the SIM device, select OutTest and select Out1. There you can see you can optionally specify the OPC update rate and also enter a data type. Let's go ahead and enter a data type of double float. Click OK. That returns the direct OPC interface tag. Under the property text OPC systems send value on enter, that is defaulted to true. This means when the user has the focus in the text box and hits the enter key, the text that is in that text box will be sent to the tag defined under the text OPC systems tag property. There's also the ability to disable updates when the user has the focus inside of the text box. This is a useful feature to leave to true, so that if a value change occurs in the service, the operator's entry will not be disrupted until he leaves that text box. Let's take the text OPC systems tag property, select it, and hit Control-C to copy that direct OPC tag. And now let's drag an OPC Web Controls label onto the form. Position it just to the right of the text box. And under the text OPC systems tag property for that label, paste in the direct OPC interface. You can also browse for it again if you'd like. In this way, we'll see the changes that we make in the text box be reflected in the label to the right. Let's see what that looks like in runtime. Right-click on the form, select View Browser, save your changes to your form, and now we have the value 0 in the text box. We can change that to 1, hit the Enter key, and we'll see the update reflected in the label to the right.